Hello everyone, my name is Luke, aka the Horror Nerd, and welcome back to the Dread Central Show. I hope you guys are doing well tonight. So in today's video, instead of talking about Friday the 13th once again, I am going to be talking about Dead by Daylight and why this game is still alive and kicking. Some of you guys probably already know the answer yourselves, so there's no point even watching this video. But anyways, for those who are curious about it, or for those who just like seeing my pretty face and talking about things, let's get straight into the topic of today's video. So, the reason why Dead by Daylight continues to function and continues to constantly get new DLC, new updates, and the reason why it's still alive in general is because every other game that is similar to DBD has been a complete and colossal failure. And most of you guys probably already know this. Evil Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that weird Predator game, which is somehow back, by the way. I'm sure no one is even playing it. All of these other asymmetrical online horror games, they never actually succeed. They never go on for more than just a couple of months or maximum up to a year before either dying or just losing so many of its players that playing those games feels like just it feels like just a waste of time, because, you know, these are live service games that require you to have more players in a large community to actually be able to play those games in the first place. So when these games lose so many players and you gotta wait like 15 to 30 minutes, sometimes longer than that, just to find a match, like, you know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is the only asymmetrical horror game I have seen that is still somehow slightly alive and is still getting new DLC, but let's be honest, I think it's only a matter of time before TCM dies. But again, like I said, these other asymmetrical horror games that come out, they don't just die because Dead by Daylight exists. They die because they are not good games. They die because nobody wants to play them after what they have experienced. And when the players realize that these games are made by developers who are extremely incompetent, can you even blame them? Like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, for example. This game is the perfect example of what I'm trying to say here. Texas Chainsaw Massacre has awful balance. It is worser than Dead by Daylight in almost every way possible. The only thing about TCM that's pretty cool is the fact that it's 3 killers versus 4 survivors. That is something that DBD does not have, and I'm pretty sure that behavior actually took a little bit of inspiration from Texas Chainsaw Massacre with their 2v8 mode that they made a while back. So, besides just that concept, everything about TCM is terrible. It is heavily unbalanced. It is extremely monetized. The game has a very toxic community, even though the community is barely even alive anymore. I mean, I know that TCM still has well over at least 1,000 players on all platforms. I think PlayStation and Xbox have a bit more than PC does, but still, that game's community is incredibly small, and I do believe that the game will die at some point very soon. But let's talk a little bit about Dead by Daylight first. Why is it that Dead by Daylight has become the powerhouse that it is among this genre? Well, just like Fortnite is running a monopoly with Battle Royale games, Dead by Daylight is doing the exact same thing, and for one reason, and that is because of the licensed DLC and all of the licensed characters. Fortnite does the exact same thing that Dead by Daylight does. Fortnite is popular for one reason, and that is because it is simple to get into, and it has a lot of DLCs that are licensed characters, popular characters that people love, and the game is constantly getting them. I'm sorry, that was 2 reasons, my mistake. Dead by Daylight essentially does the exact same thing that Fortnite does. The only reason why the game is so popular and the reason why the game is running such a large monopoly on this genre is because of all of the licensed characters that it gets. If Dead by Daylight didn't get as many licensed characters as it did, I'm pretty sure the game would have ended up dying just like every other game of its type. Behavior knew exactly what they were doing when they made this game. They knew that their plan was foolproof when they thought of the idea of, hey, let's make a live service multiplayer horror game, but here's the catch. There's going to be, we're going to add like Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Leatherface, and all these other popular horror characters that people like. It's a horror game, and we're going to appeal to horror fans by bringing in some very popular horror IPs. And that's why Dead by Daylight is always getting the more popular horror IPs. That's why you never see any indie horror ever come to Dead by Daylight. You never see things like Outlast or Amnesia or Slenderman. Like, you never see any of the more less popular horror characters in Dead by Daylight, or the less popular horror IPs. It's always the more popular horror IPs, because Behavior knows that the more popular the IP, the better the chances of that bringing in more players into Dead by Daylight. Their plan is foolproof. As much as I hate Behavior, I do have to give them some props for their intelligence and their high IQ levels for coming up with such a foolproof plan to keep their game alive for so many years to come, because Dead by Daylight came out in 2016. The game is pretty fucking old. So, this is one of the biggest reasons why Dead by Daylight runs such a large monopoly on this genre. They have the most popular horror IPs in their game, and not only that, but Dead by Daylight is also very easy to get into. This game appeals to casual players a lot. The game is very easy to pick up, and here's another thing. A lot of people nowadays are casuals themselves. Of course, you've got people who could put like over 5,000 hours into these kinds of games, but the thing about Dead by Daylight is there's two types of Dead by Daylight players. There's the casual players, and then there's the more hardcore players. The game appeals to both very good. The game has a very good way of appealing to both. The game rewards you for playing for long hours, grinding, and playing for longer hours to get better at it. But the game also still appeals to a casual audience as well, because the game has skill-based matchmaking. So if you're not that good at the game, then you'll be also facing other casual players. And the game also does not really punish you that much for not playing as long as the more hardcore players. Of course, if you want some of the DLCs, you're going to have to buy those DLCs, but another thing about Dead by Daylight is this game has some of the cheapest microtransactions I have seen in a live service game. The new chapters that Dead by Daylight gets, they are getting a teeny bit more expensive, but for the most part, they are dirt cheap. You get the new killer, you get the new survivor, or survivors if there's two. You get access to the new perks. You get some charms for your survivor to wear or on your killer's hook. And you also get access to the new map, but that's always going to be in the game whether you buy the DLC or not. But playing as new killers is also another thing that Dead by Daylight does right, because every new killer that comes out has a different power. They have like a different gimmick, and that's very appealing to a lot of the people who play this game. That's how you keep a live service game alive in the first place. You constantly add new DLC that actually is interesting and actually feels like the game is really getting new stuff, because you never want to add things that feel like it's a recycle of something that was already added before. Although there are some killers in DBD that are similar to one another, for example, Billy and Oni are pretty similar. Chucky and Blight are also similar because they both kind of just run at survivors pretty much. They're still different enough to actually feel like different experiences when you play as these killers. And of course, the game has an amazing perk system. The game has a shit ton of perks for both the survivors and the killers. Some perks allowing you to do completely new actions that you could not do before without using those perks. So the game gives you a reason to keep coming back for more, whether it's to play as the new killers or to use the new survivor and killer perks. And of course, since you can use a full loadout of perks, it's also very fun to make new and creative builds. Basically, a full set of perks that go well with one another. This goes for both killers and survivors, and it is very fun to experiment and test to see what kind of builds work best for you. So like I said, the game is just constantly giving players a reason to keep coming back. This is also probably the reason why Dead by Daylight is so addicting. Like, I've talked to people, and I myself have tried quitting this game, and with complete failure. I cannot stop playing this game. So, this is one of the biggest reasons why Dead by Daylight has such a monopoly over this genre. You've got the perk system, and of course you've got the currency system. Now, let me tell you something. You don't have to not spend a single cent on this game. Like, you don't got to spend a single dollar on this game. You can grind in Dead by Daylight for all the in-game currency you want. The only thing you'd have to buy in this game with real money are the Auric cells, but for the most part, you don't even really need the Auric cells. And when you do want the Auric cells to begin with, they're not even that expensive. Like I said, Dead by Daylight is not that greedy. Like, we all know that fucking Call of Duty exists, so Dead by Daylight in terms of microtransactions and in-game currency, it's also not bad. And again, this also goes back to the fact that the game gives you a reason to grind. You grind to get better at the game, you grind to unlock the perks, you grind to prestige your characters, so you can use your other characters' perks on a new survivor that you're using. For example, like you can be, let's say you main a specific survivor, right? And you want to use their perks on another survivor that you want to main. You can do that, you know? You can prestige that survivor and then get their perks or make their perks available for all your other survivors. And the same goes for Killer. So the game gives you a good reason to grind, to unlock all the new perks, for in-game currency. The game also has a pretty decent battle pass. I know it's not going to sound good for a lot of people because battle passes have a bad reputation, but the one in Dead by Daylight is really not that bad as well. Like, the battle pass is decent. It's not too shabby. But yeah, like I said before, Behavior knew exactly what they were doing. These two elements of Dead by Daylight go hand in hand. The game is easy to get into, it's moderately fun to grind depending on how you feel about the game, and the game is also constantly getting new DLC and new updates, whether it's DLC killers out of license or not. I mean, because Dead by Daylight also does have some pretty good original DLCs as well. We all know that Dredge, Unknown, and Singularity were fantastic chapters in DBD. Now, why is this a bad thing? Besides the fact that Dead by Daylight has no competition, why is this a bad thing? Well, the reason why it's a bad thing is because I haven't talked about some of the bad stuff about Dead by Daylight. And some of the bad stuff is, this game, as good as it sounds on paper, this game can be extremely unbalanced at times. The game can also be buggy. Behavior has also done some pretty scummy moves, you know, in the past. For example, they have nerfed a couple of perks for both Killer and Survivor that did not need to be nerfed. The balancing team for DBD is really not good. The game has terrible balance at times. And as good as the perk system is, the perks kind of ruined the game. People in this game will easily take advantage of perks that are either overpowered or builds for both Killer and Survivor that are overpowered, and this can really kind of ruin the experience for everyone else playing it. Whether you're a Killer who's trying to have fun and you're facing a 4-man Survivor friends group that are all using the same overpowered perk builds, or maybe you're playing solo queue as a Survivor and you're facing like a Killer who's using like a full Hex build and you just can't find the totems because they're too well hid. Like, it can be very annoying for both sides. And like I said, the game can be either really Killer-sided or really Survivor-sided at time. It really depends on the situation and, you know, what exactly is happening. You know, sometimes we'll be facing a strong Killer and you're not playing in a group, because playing solo queue in this game as Survivor is really annoying because the game relies on communication. Like, if you're not in a well-coordinated Survivor friends group, then each Killer you face is going to seem like they're overpowered because of how easy everyone's going to go down. Although you could have some good solo queue teammates. You guys have seen my gameplay. I've had some decent solo queue teammates while playing this game, so... But again, this monopoly that Dead by Daylight has allows Behavior to do whatever they want. They can make extremely shitty choices with the game, and they are allowed to get away with it because there's no other game that people can flee to, I mean, if Dead by Daylight starts getting shittier and shittier, which it most likely will get. I mean, because, you know, Dead by Daylight, man, like, the game, I know many will argue and say that the game has never been better, but to me, the game is just getting worse, in my opinion. The game is becoming more unbalanced, the perks are becoming a bit more boring to use, they're becoming a bit less creative as well, because there are some perks in this game for both Killer and Survivor that are just awful. Like, they really don't do that much. They're weird sometimes. Like, there are perks in this game that are just completely useless at times. So, I just feel like the game it's getting in a worse state, kind of. Not only that, but the current meta of the game is incredibly sweaty and incredibly toxic nowadays. I mean, for both killer and survivor, the community in this game is just getting worse and worse by the day. Like, Twitch streamers, for example, are really showing their true colors about the people that they really are when this game makes them angry. Like, you try and go on Twitch and look at some Dead by Daylight streamers on there. If you look long enough, and by long enough, probably like an hour or so, it probably won't even take you that long, you'll probably find a toxic streamer. Like, this game's community is so fucking toxic. You would have to wear a gas mask just to actually try and survive in this game's toxic-ass community. That's how toxic it is. Like, it's become physically toxic as well, to the point where it's poisonous to our fucking health. But, yeah. Like I said, behavior is allowed to get away with doing shit like this with the game. They can either nerf shit that doesn't need to be nerfed. They can make unnecessary changes to the game. They can do whatever they want, pretty much, because of the monopoly that they have. And that's why it's bad when something has a monopoly, whether it's a game or a company, because when those things have monopolies, it pretty much gives them a free pass to do whatever they want, because if there's no competitors to appeal to people that get pissed off because of the shit that you do, then you can do whatever you want if there's no competitor. And that's exactly why Dead by Daylight is actually in the state that it's in, because, like I said before, there is no other game that people like me can go to when Dead by Daylight starts getting shittier and shittier. I mean, it's already been shitty, you know? Because Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that game is worse than Dead by Daylight. Evil Dead is still dead. I mean, Killer Clowns, that game is dead. Friday the 13th, that game recently tragically died. You guys already know that. This is why Dead by Daylight has this kind of reputation as well. I mean, why do you think Behavior is so careless with this game? This game is their legacy. This game was their major success. This is the game that made them who they are today. And they have such a pathetic and pity lack of care for their product. Because Dead by Daylight could be better. The game could be more balanced. The perks can be more better. They can make better changes to both Killer and Survivor, and yet they choose not to. They can add new game modes, for fuck's sake. I mean, bro, the 2v8 mode that they added brought so much light back into Dead by Daylight. Because the game was so boring before that. Because we've been doing the same thing since 2016. The only thing that changes with Dead by Daylight is the new chapters, the new perks, and that's it. New game modes would have been so good for this game, and yet they chose not to do that. 2v8 is not even a permanent mode. It's like, it's something that just comes into the game every few months or so. Like, this proves that Behavior has a lack of care for their game, because if they didn't, then they would have already added new modes, they would have made the game more balanced, and they would have made better quality of life changes for the community, but they haven't. And even when they try and do those things, they end up failing at them. Like, Behavior is just very incompetent. Sure, they may not be as incompetent as the TCM devs, but they're still pretty fucking incompetent. So, now let's talk about the other games. The reason why Dead by Daylight is still alive, besides its monopoly, let's talk about why it has a monopoly in the first place. Dead by Daylight could have a competitor that could give Behavior a run for their money. Possibly, dare I say it, Dead by Daylight can possibly even be dethroned if a developer would rise to the challenge and actually make a game that is better than Dead by Daylight. Because that's the only way to actually do just that. You have to beat Behavior at their own game. You have to make a game that's like Dead by Daylight, but does everything better than Dead by Daylight. Better gameplay, better balance, better mechanics, more features. You know, I mean, look at Friday the 13th, for example. Like, I know I said that Dead by Daylight has a monopoly, and one of the biggest reasons because it gets all the DLC, but bro, Friday the 13th, that game did not have any licensed DLC, but that game was the only one that was actually a worthy competitor for Dead by Daylight. Sure, you can argue and say that F13's community was nowhere near as big as Dead by Daylight's, But the thing about Friday the 13th is that game had one major edge over Dead by Daylight, and that is Friday the 13th was more fun. And at the end of the day, the gameplay is an incredibly important factor in these kinds of games. It's not just about the DLC and the licensed characters. Yes, that's a big factor, but the core factor all relies with the gameplay, the balance, and the entertainment factor. If a game is entertaining and if it's fun for both sides that are playing it, it's what killer and survivors, because these are asymmetrical games. That is something that you must get right first. Then you can worry about licensed characters and DLCs and updates, because these are games after all. And I've said this before and I'll say it again, but a game's heart and soul relies on the gameplay and the entertainment factor. Because video games are supposed to be fun, especially games of this type, because these are not story games. I mean, yeah, there's some lore, but for the most part, these are games that rely completely on the gameplay factor. This is the main appeal of these games. It's all about the gameplay, right? Because these are asymmetrical games. So just like how Call of Duty, it's about, the shooting people and shit, like it's the same thing here. It's all about the gameplay, which is why the gameplay is the first thing that you need to get right. So this is one of the biggest reasons why Friday the 13th had such a major edge over Dead by Daylight. Because Friday the 13th was not only more fun than Dead by Daylight, but it was also more balanced. I mean, at first the game had some issues, but what did the devs do? Did they give up, like the devs of TCM? Or did they actually listen to the community's feedback and make the game more balanced, more fair, and better at the same time for both sides? Because when they said that Jason was overpowered, they gave him a slight nerf, but also made him a bit stronger at the same time, but not to a point where he was OP. They did the same thing for counselors. Like, everything that they did for that game in terms of balance was done perfectly. The devs behind Friday the 13th have actual skill. They know exactly how to balance something out without ruining it, making it too weak, or not really balancing it at all. Like, they knew exactly what they were doing when it comes to balancing, because Friday the 13th was a very balanced game, unlike Dead by Daylight, which is the opposite. Now, like I was saying before, Friday the 13th was a worthy competitor for Dead by Daylight because it was more fun, it had more mechanics. Like, for example, we all remember that in Friday the 13th, there was multiple ways to win the game as counselor. You could either repair the car, you could fix the boat, you can call the cops, or you have the option of trying to kill Jason. It was fun, Like, I remember there was this one time where me and my friends were playing Friday the 13th, right? We tried killing Jason, and our plan backfired almost instantly. My Tommy Jarvis got killed almost instantly because my friend at the time was not good at the game. Two of my other friends ended up dying, so we all started panicking, and then we all started trying to just fix the car and try and escape instead. And it was a narrowing escape, which only had me and one of my friends escaping. Like, that's what made Friday the 13th so much fun. The mechanics, the multiple mechanics mixed with the incredibly fun pacing and the intensity of the amazing game, the gameplay, like, that's what made Friday the 13th so good. Friday the 13th was also a much more scarier game. Friday the 13th actually felt like a survival horror game when Jason was right on your ass. Like, Friday the 13th was an incredible game. That is the main reason why Friday the 13th was actually a good competitor for Dead by Daylight. And it also proves that you don't need licensed DLC to have a successful game. Bro, when Friday the 13th stopped receiving updates after the lawsuit, people still played it. People still played it because of how much fun it was. And that proves that Dead by Daylight can have a competitor if the game that it's competing with, or the game that's competing with Dead by Daylight, is actually made by good developers. Developers who actually know what the fuck they're doing. Unlike these two over here.
Spread our wings even further and, have a bit more fun, not having that game mode not be as, sort of serious in its tone as the base game allows us to, do more things like, the Halloween costumes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, in case you haven't seen our socials today, maybe take a peek. We released our Halloween cosmetics for the sorority girls, which are very fun. My favorite costume is the nun costume, so much so I decided I'm going to be a nun for Halloween, for anyone who wants to know. But yeah, it allows us to have some of those cosmetics that we hear you guys talk about a lot in the community, and so having Rush Week as this...
Developers like that is the exact reason why we are in this Dead by Daylight monopoly situation. But like I said before, just make Dead by Daylight again, but make it better. Let me give you a perfect example. Gameplay. As Survivor in Dead by Daylight, you just repair generators and run from the killer. How about make it in a new Dead by Daylight type game where you can do more than that? Make it more like Friday the 13th and Evil Dead, because Evil Dead was actually a pretty decent game. There was a lot of mechanics, the game was fun, it had some balancing issues, but they could have fixed it. I don't know why they abandoned Evil Dead. Like, that, to me, that was both a tragedy and a mystery. I have no idea why they abandoned Evil Dead, but look at Dead by Daylight. Look at everything that game does, copy it, but do it better. That's how you beat behavior at their own game, and that's how a new asymmetrical horror game can not only compete with Dead by Daylight, but can possibly either dethrone it or force behavior to treat their own game better. Because if behavior sees that there's another asymmetrical horror game that's just like theirs and is doing better than theirs, has better gameplay, better features, more balance, more better perks, etc., then they will be forced to try and do the same things for their game, make their game better, maybe even add a new game mode perhaps. Because the thing about Dead by Daylight that no other game will ever have, even if it's better than Dead by Daylight, is honestly the lore. Dead by Daylight has a very, very, it has very, very good lore. I'm kind of a Dead by Daylight lore nerd. I love Dead by Daylight's lore. It's all very interesting. It's all very fun to explore. My favorite is Dredge, because the lore of the Dredge chapter was actually based off of the real-life Jonestown Massacre. And as a horror fan, I love it when horror media actually either takes inspiration or is just inspired by real-life horrific events that happen in real life. So, this would be good for everything. Like, if Dead by Daylight had a good competitor, then not only would they possibly make their game better, but it would be nice to have another game to play that's like Dead by Daylight, because Dead by Daylight can also get very boring and very old at times. But, yeah. The reason why this doesn't happen is because every other asymmetrical horror game, like I said, it's never good. They're made by incompetent fools who have no idea what they are doing or how to make a game like this in the first place. Behavior knew exactly what they were doing, man. They knew exactly what they were doing. They did not even have to add new game modes into DBD, because all they do is add new chapters, and that's good enough for people. I already explained why it's good enough for people, but the thing that pisses me off is the fact that it would be easy to make a Dead by Daylight clone that can actually beat Dead by Daylight at its own Monopoly game. Like, it would be so simple. All you have to do is just make one that is better than Dead by Daylight. How difficult can that be for people? I guess really difficult, I guess. And another thing, bro, why is it that all of these other asymmetrical horror games, why is it that they're always based off of some 90s horror movie? Listen, Friday the 13th was fine, but we got an Evil Dead based game, we got one based off of TCM, we got one based off of Killer Clowns. Bro, most people nowadays don't even remember Killer Clowns when that movie came out. We had that Ghostbusters game, we had one based off of Predator. Like, why is it that they're always based off of these 90s horror films? This is probably one of the reasons why that they don't get licensed DLC, because they're already based off of a license. That's how Friday the 13th died, because it was based off of another horror movie IP, and then when the lawsuit happened, that's why Friday the 13th the game died. I'm not saying Friday the 13th the game shouldn't have been made, but This would give developers a better chance of not having their game get shut down if it's not based off of some 90s horror movie. Like, these fucking developers are so incompetent. There is a good reason why Dead by Daylight holds the monopoly that it does over this fucking genre, because every other developer in this genre is worse than Behavior. They have no fucking idea what they are doing. They make so much fucking slop. I'm surprised I haven't already choked and fucking died on it myself, because I buy these games. I buy these fucking games and I try and play them, and I hope that they don't end up dying in like a couple of months. Bro, I brought Killer Clowns, I brought TCM, I brought that Predator game. Actually, no, I brought that on the Xbox, not the PlayStation. Thank God. I have that. I brought the new version on my Xbox because it was like on sale. I didn't tell you guys that, and bro, it fucking sucks. Like, thank God I didn't buy it on the PlayStation. Like, I thought, like, bro, that Predator Hunting Grounds game, Predator Hunting Grounds is called, they remastered that game, right? It used to be a PS4 exclusive. It was not that good. It came out a couple years back. They remastered it for whatever reason. They bought it back to PS5. They bought it on Xbox for the first time. It was on sale on Xbox a while back. I had some credits saved up in my Microsoft account for my Microsoft rewards, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let me try this out. Bro, it's the exact same as everything else I've played. I can't keep spending money on these games. I won't keep spending money on these games. They're gonna, just watch. They're gonna make a Halloween game. They're gonna make a Halloween game. They might make a Ghostface game. They might make a Freddy Krueger game. They're gonna make another asymmetrical horror game that's gonna be based off of some random 90s horror film, and the same thing will happen to it, just like what is currently happening with TCM. It'll be made by an incompetent developer who has no idea what they're doing or how to balance their game, and it'll just either end up dying in the next couple of months, or maybe a year perhaps, or it'll just be extremely bad like TCM is. Because these games, man, like, these games just don't do enough right. Okay, like, these are live service games, right? So a live service game needs a large player base in order to continue functioning, and it needs a large player base in order to keep going. Like, if a live service game has a lack of players, then it's not going to go on for long. Like, that's why they're live service games. Live service games rely on the people that play them, you know? Because the devs need money to keep adding updates and DLC, and they need players to actually be spending money on those new DLCs and to keep enjoying those new updates. Bro, if these games also have a lack of balance, and if the gameplay is not fun, and if it's like TCM where there's bro, TCM has more fucking cosmetics than decent updates and patches. This is exactly the fucking reason why Dead by Daylight won't die itself. Maybe not straight up die, but this is why they have such a monopoly over this genre. Don't be like the fucking TCM devs. Be more like the skilled team behind Friday the 13th. And for fuck's sake, please for the love of all things holy, or at least for my money and my goddamn soul, stop making asymmetrical horror games based off of 90s horror films. Bro, Dead by Daylight was its own original idea. How can you beat Dead by Daylight if you make slop like this? Stop it. Please just fucking stop it. Stop making these kinds of games. Like, do these fucking developers even learn? Like, do they learn from the other developers who did the exact same thing that they're doing now, and they failed with theirs, and you think you're not going to fail with yours when you keep doing the exact same mistake that they did with their game? They even copy each other's mistakes. Killer Clowns ended up just like TCM. It was an unbalanced mess filled with bugs and too many fucking cosmetics and DLCs, and not enough actual good updates and gameplay tweaking. Because like I said, bro, these asymmetrical horror games, besides having fun gameplay, balance is also an extremely important part of it. You need to make sure that both sides feel like the game is fair for them. You know, you never want one side to feel like it's too unfair for them, And you never want them to feel like the game is more fun for the other side than it is for their side. You want both sides to equally be having fun with their respective roles. You want the killer to feel like they are actually a feared killer, and you want the survivors to actually feel like survivors who are surviving against a player-controlled monster. And not only that, but killers also need to actually be feared in these games. You need to make the killer actually feel feared. You need to make playing as the killer feel like you are the power role. You are to be feared. You are the monster that is hunting down these people. And as survivors, you need to make the experience actually scary. I'll admit, in Friday the 13th, yeah, people would all gang up and beat the crap out of Jason, but Jason was still scary for the most part in Friday the 13th. Like that story I told you guys, like when you would fail to kill Jason, and whatever plan you had to take down Jason or just survive Jason, when your plan would backfire on you or just straight up fail, and now Jason was on your ass, like, Jason was still mostly scary in Friday the 13th. This is how you're supposed to do an asymmetrical horror game. They need to make a game that will be better than Friday the 13th and will succeed in beating Dead by Daylight. But how the fuck are they supposed to do this if every other asymmetrical horror game ends up being like this? Really? Knife throwing? Really? A new survivor who can throw knives at the family members? Really? That's where your creativity led you? That's the new creative idea you came up with? A fucking survivor who throws knives at people? Really? This is another thing. The lack of creativity and originality with these other developers is off the fucking charts. I thought that I had a lack of creativity. Bro, give me 48 hours and I can probably come up with a better asymmetrical horror game concept than any of these other fucking bootleg developers who make all of these garbage ass asymmetrical games. These games as well, like, bro, they are really stinking up this industry as well. So many of these games, these dead, broken, garbage-ass, unbalanced, unfun, shitty games, just sitting there waiting for some gullible person to come and spend their money on them, thinking that they're actually about to play a fun multiplayer horror game, only to get pretty much scammed because of how bad they are. I mean, how hard is it to look at Dead by Daylight and just do everything that they do better? It's also not just about gameplay and balance, but the perk system as well in Dead by Daylight can easily be copied and can also easily be improved on. When you're making new perks for the game, make sure that not only are the perks fun, but they also enhance the already good gameplay if your game has that. And obviously it's going to, since that's an essential. Your game needs to have fun gameplay, good balance, and then you use the perks to enhance that experience, as well as the experience of the other core gameplay mechanics. That's what perks are supposed to do. How is it that a fucking 18-year-old kid still living with his parents knows this better than these goddamn developers? Like I said, bro, give me 48 hours, maybe even less, and I will easily come up with a better concept than any of these fucking developers. I dare someone to do it. Give me less than 48 hours and I will do it. All I would need is just funding. Bro, I will easily make a better game than any of this. Fucking TCM, the Predator game, and the killer guys from Texas, or whatever the fuck that clown game was. I can't even fucking remember the name because of how boring that game was. Bro, I paid $40 for that game. $40. I could have went and I could have bought myself something to eat that day, and instead I bought that shit. I could have spent that $40 on anything else. Either I could have went to go eat something, or I could have went down to the local gentleman's club. Like, bro, even the fucking local strippers, a fucking lap dance would have been more entertaining than that fucking game. And I'm the type of guy that takes games over hoes, you know? I mean, it's anything over bitches to me, but bro, games like this are complete fucking slop. This is exactly why Dead by Daylight continues to reign supreme while all these other games continue to falter. These games don't even see the light from 2 months ahead sometimes. These games die so fast. Like they die before Dead by Daylight even gets its newest update. And then when it does get its newest update, everyone's like, oh, this new game died, let's just go back to DVD. It just got a new update anyways. Like, this is why Dead by Daylight is still alive. This is why Dead by Daylight has a monopoly. All of these other asymmetrical games, they're made by fucking losers who have no idea what they're doing. And the worst part about TCM, once again, bro, TCM actually did have some decent gameplay. It has decent gameplay, and it has very decent mechanics. All they had to do was just make it more fun and more balanced. How fucking hard was that for the devs of that game? All they fucking care about is selling cosmetics, and making more broken characters. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Every new family and victim they add to TCM either is extremely broken, extremely overpowered, or is extremely weak. Bones, the new killer in TCM, he doesn't fucking do anything. He has an ability where he can set like a trap that like explodes when survivors go next to it. Like, what the fuck?
It's boom time!
Okay, so he's got fart bombs. Bro, Bones is literally the exact same as Hitchhiker. He's pretty much just a reskin except for he's Bill Moseley. He's got the same setup as Hitchhiker, except for he just sets up fucking fart bombs. Bro, how did they manage to take TCM and actually make it worse than Dead by Daylight? Because like I said before, it's worse in pretty much every other way. Listen, I know that it's hard to make a game that could compete with Dead by Daylight. One of the reasons why all these games are probably based off of all these old horror films is because it's probably too hard for these developers to come up with their own concept for an original game. That's why they're all based off of these old 90s horror flicks that nobody watches anymore. At least not people who aren't horror fans like myself, because I've said this before and I'll say it again. Horror is an underrated genre. Everyone nowadays is just into first-person shooters and cringy-ass superhero movies. Like, not a lot of people like horror like I do. But anyways, like, I get it. I understand that it's a struggle, it takes a lot of effort, but the fact that these developers can't even come up with their own original concepts to make an original game, that right there is already a red flag. If they can't even come up with an original concept for a game instead of just making it based off of some old 90s horror film. Like, if they can't even have enough effort to make an original game, then how could anyone expect them to actually make the game itself good? Because making a game that could compete with Dead by Daylight would be incredibly difficult. Actually, not that difficult. I mean, bro, all you gotta do is just make it better in every way. Especially with the perks. Like, Dead by Daylight, we all know that Dead by Daylight has a huge perk and meta problem. Here's how to fix it. Never make overpowered perks. This is why Dead by Daylight has this current meta problem and a toxic community. The perks is what make people toxic in Dead by Daylight because people are constantly complaining about it. Hey, you're using a hex perk. No, you're using Dead Hard and Decisive Strike. You got adrenaline. You got this. You got that. You're using gen perks. Bro, all people care about is perks in Dead by Daylight. It's very easy to fix a perk problem. Just don't make them overpowered. If you have perks in any game besides just asymmetrical horror, this goes for all games that use perks. If you have an overpowered perk that's pretty much just a clutch, then it gives the other side an unfair advantage. So you're not supposed to have overpowered perks. You're supposed to have fun perks that enhance the gameplay and can even add new little mini features in a game. That's what a perk is supposed to do. It's supposed to give you a new ability. It's supposed to give you an assist, as well as also give you some mini features. It's like a mini feature type thing. Like, that's what a perk is supposed to do. And you can add so many of them. Be creative with them. Make them fun. Make them original. Like, make fun original perks and make them actually do something good for the game. Don't make them overpowered, or just don't do straight up anything like the ones in Dead by Daylight or the ones in TCM, bro. Even the ones in TCM are garbage. Like, so you see how difficult it is. You gotta have fun gameplay, you gotta have good balance, you gotta have constant DLC updates, you gotta have a good perk system, and you also gotta have a good reason to keep people coming back to the game. You know, the grind has to be there, and there has to be a good reason to keep playing the game. New maps, new updates, new game modes perhaps. Game modes go such a long way in prolonging a game's life cycle if it's live service. Like, live service games need a lot of elements. They need new things that will keep the players playing the game for years to come. If the game is that fun, and if the game is actually doing the right job at actually keeping players there in the first place. Because doing the right thing when it comes to live service games, whether it's asymmetrical or not, is such an important thing. It is something that you absolutely 100% need to do if you have a live service game that you want to actually live for at least another 4 or 5 years. Like, Dead by Daylight was able to do this for so long, and they don't even have that much. Like, and like I said before, bro, like, just look at Dead by Daylight and do everything better. Because Dead by Daylight's gameplay, like the core gameplay and the core mechanics of Dead by Daylight are pretty boring. Like, as Survivor, you're running around, dropping a pallet, vaulting, doing gens, using flashlights, teabagging at the exit gates. As Killer, you're put the survivors on a hook, run after survivors, run after them while they're looping you around a pallet. Like, it's so boring. Like, how hard would it be to make something better than that? If Friday the 13th can do it, that game died. It didn't get any more DLC and updates, and people still played it. If Friday the 13th can do it, then why can't you? Why are all of these fucking developers so incredibly incompetent? I don't fucking understand it. But anyways, guys, I think that about does it for this video. It's gone on long enough. There's not much else to say other than the fact that this genre of asymmetrical horror is pretty bad. Until we get an actual Dead by Daylight-like game that can actually compete with Dead by Daylight, maybe, hopefully in the future, one that can maybe even possibly take down Dead by Daylight. But until that day comes, this genre of games will just continue to get shittier and shittier. I mean, mark my words, they're gonna have a Halloween game next, because Halloween has made a bit of a comeback. They're gonna make a Halloween game because it's a popular franchise, you know? These fucking developers don't care about anything else besides that. Why do you think they won't make an original game themselves? It's not just because they're not creative enough to do so, but it's also because they probably just don't want to. Why create an original idea when you can just make a game that's already based off of a popular franchise that will definitely get people interested, instead of making your own original concept? You know, all these fucking lazy-ass developers, man. It's not just asymmetrical horror that struggles with this. It's the gaming industry in general that struggles with this. Laziness and incompetence and a lack of actual skill to make good games is the exact reason why video games nowadays are so incredibly fucking dog shit. Fucking stop it. Please. These developers are literally eating my soul. Like, I can't take this shit anymore. I don't want to keep playing Dead by Daylight. I need an asymmetrical horror game that can fill the void that Dead by Daylight is leaving, because Dead by Daylight is getting worse for me every single day. Like, I can't enjoy the game anymore. I genuinely can't. I want a new asymmetrical horror game that I can actually enjoy, just like how I used to enjoy Dead by Daylight, and how I used to enjoy Friday the 13th before the game died, of course. But yeah, like, this is the reason. These are the main reasons why Dead by Daylight is still around and why there are no Dead by Daylight competitors. Stop making these games based off of these old horror films. Better gameplay, better balance, constant updates, and one other thing I forgot, actually, interact with the community. And listen to those who actually sound right. Don't just listen to everyone, because sometimes people actually can say the wrong things. One thing that I actually forgot to talk about in this discussion video Dead by Daylight's community often ends up going to other games that are similar to Dead by Daylight, and we all know that Dead by Daylight players are incredibly entitled, especially Survivor mains. So let's say a group of people who've been playing Dead by Daylight for years decide to go to another game that's similar to Dead by Daylight. They play the game, and the game is balanced, but it's not balanced enough for them. So what they will end up doing is they will end up complaining to the developers of that game to either nerf something that doesn't need to be nerfed or buff something that does not need to be buffed. And the reason why these developers will end up listening to these people is because these games that they end up going to, like TCM, like Evil Dead when it was still around, like Killer Clowns when it was still around, these are smaller asymmetrical horror games by smaller developers, so they're going to be desperate to try and keep everyone happy, so they will continue playing their game. So oftentimes, they will end up listening to people like these Dead by Daylight Survivor mains who are so entitled that they need every other asymmetrical horror game that comes out to be just like Dead by Daylight in terms of whose side it's on. And it needs to be Survivor-sided, because entitled survivors like Survivor-sided games. Games that are only in their favor, and games that are only holding their hand and sucking their you-know-what. So, this is just one of the reasons why other asymmetrical horror games oftentimes don't end up working, because Dead by Daylight's community actually has an impact on these games because of Dead by Daylight's community. Because Dead by Daylight's Survivor main community is so entitled. And the same goes for Killer Mains. I mean, Killer Mains can be just as entitled, but still, like, this is just one of the other reasons. And like I said before, I actually feel bad for these developers in this case, because they just want to keep everyone happy. They just want people to actually play their new game, because although some of these devs don't put a lot of effort and time into their games, they still needed money, and they still put a lot of money into them. So they just want people to actually be satisfied with their product, which is why they'll end up listening to these kinds of people. Which is why I said earlier, listen to those that actually sound like they are telling the truth, instead of just listening to everybody. Because sometimes people say some incredibly stupid shit. But this is how you can make an asymmetrical horror game that can either compete with Dead by Daylight, or maybe, just maybe, even take it down fully. I've already explained everything. If these developers end up watching this video, or if someone shares it with them, or if someone takes what I have said and then gives that to them, hopefully they actually have everything they need. Because Dead by Daylight needs to be stopped. This game and its monopoly need to end, and it won't if these garbage-ass asymmetrical horror games keep coming out. I despise these games so much. Every single time I hear about one that's coming out, I immediately look back in disgust at Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then look at the new one that's coming out. I'm gonna be like, is this gonna be another TCM? Is this gonna be just like TCM again? Bro, that Halloween game, I don't know when it's coming out. Maybe this year, maybe next year, I don't know, but it's going to come out eventually. And when it does, it's probably going to be just like TCM. Unless it is made by the same people who made Friday the 13th. The great game known as Friday the 13th. One of the greatest video games ever made. If it is made by those guys, I will give it a chance. On sale. Because even people who made great things can have their own downfall. We've seen that countless times before.
What the fuck's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Eat That Pussy 445, nigga. We're fucking leaving Chipotle right now. I'm heading down a big ass hill right now. And, my bad, y'all. I'm busting out a YouTube video, dog. And, we better get the fuck out of here, dude. I just overflooded the toilet. Oh, let's get the fuck out of here. Let's go. Yeah. So, I basically stormed the fuck out of Chipotle right now. Got people looking at me and shit. So, yeah, I just took a mean ass shit in Chipotle. And I've been holding this shit for almost, 15, 16 hours. And I used so much tissue to wipe my ass with. When I flushed the toilet, it didn't go all the way the fuck down. So, of course, there's tissue. Not all of the tissue can go down in the fucking toilet, you feel me? And, there was... all the tissue couldn't go down up in the toilet, and therefore, when the water is trying to push all that fucking tissue down, it's not going the fuck down. It clogged up, and all of the pipes is like fucking up right now. I stormed the fuck out of Chipotle. I'm fucking hauling ass, and the reason why I ran out that bitch because I don't want nobody fucking looking at my ass. So, yeah, don't go to Chipotle.
You just come talk to the kids, boy, you out mad. Why you really hang like that? You feel like a bean bag. When I found out what you did, man, I was so mad. You made me mad. Now I gotta expose your ass. You feel like a spot from chowder, boy, you OD. I know your legs about to give out. You got swole knees. If you see EDP, you better hide your keys. I knew you was a pedo. I'm gonna call the police. Why you look like that? This man has shaped like a milk dud. You look like a snack. How you eat so many How you eat so many McNuggets, boy, you really fat? Why your nipples go to your belly? That's a long boo. Why you recording yourself taking a boo? Why you talking to...
What a tragedy. Went from being one of the funniest YouTubers to a disgusting pedophile who was caught multiple times trying to fuck with little girls. It's like a goddamn gag at this point. Like, you know how they always do the, oh my god, they killed Kenny gag, or how Peter Griffin always fights with a chicken in those, in Family Guy and South Park. Like, it's like a cartoon gag at this point. Oh, EDP got caught trying to fuck with a little girl again. But like I said, from internet comedian to pedophile, from Friday the 13th to TCM. Why is it that the good things in life not only end up ending, but then shitty things come right after? Is it balance? Like, seriously, like, when good things come to an end, the thing that follows up is always bad. Like, I don't get it. But yeah, anyways, guys, this was, I think this was actually the longest discussion video here on my channel. I'm not too sure, actually. Let me check. I'm pretty sure this was one of the longer discussion videos here on the channel. Let's see. That one was 51 minutes. This one was 41. I'm actually not sure. I guess we'll see when I edit this video. But if it was not, then still, this was still a long-ass discussion video. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys enjoyed the rambling for however long this video went. I gotta go and edit this now. It's gonna take a while to upload. But anyways, guys, thank you so very much for watching. Anyone who stuck by till the very end of this video, from the moment when it was still, the sun was coming up. Now it's, bro, the sun's literally coming up now. That's how long this took to make. But for those who stuck by from the beginning till the end, like right now, if you're still here watching this, thank you so very much. It means the world to me that you actually stuck by and watched this whole video. I always love it when people actually watch the whole discussion video. It makes me feel like I'm not as annoying as I think I am. So, yeah, thank you guys so very much. Whether you stuck by till the end or not, thank you so very much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. And I just want to give a quick shout out to all of my new subscribers. Thank you so very much for subscribing to the Dread Central Show. I'm glad that this channel is kind of growing, and, you know, here I am grateful over 26 subs. Bro, 26 subscribers for me is beautiful. I would be happy if it was just this for, I don't know, forever, I guess. I don't mind. Like, I don't care about growing that much. I don't care about being extremely popular. I don't care about fame and money. All I care about is just making videos. Like, that's all I care about. So, thank you guys so very much for watching. Thank you for hopefully enjoying my content. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, and if you would also share this with friends, possibly other people who might be interested in these kinds of topics here on the Dread Central Show, I would greatly appreciate it. Any support, I appreciate. Whether it's small support, big support, whatever. Like, I appreciate whatever I get. I'm not ungrateful like that. You know, support is support. Kindness is kindness. I'll take whatever I can get. So, again, thank you guys so very much for watching. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe if this video earned those things from you. And, yeah, hopefully I will see you guys on whatever comes next, whether it's a discussion video, gameplay video, whatever. The Dread Central Show will continue. The show will go on. So, yeah. So, for the last time, thank you guys. Seriously, just Thank all you guys so much. I love you guys all. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time on the Dread Central Show. Take care, y'all. Peace out.